A deadly Soviet classic and a staple of late 20th century conflict, the Sniperskaya Vintovka Dragunova is an iconic semi-auto sniper rifle. Developed at the height of the Cold War, this high-powered, long-ranged rifle proved itself as a worthy adversary for the weaponry fielded by its Western rivals. Found in the hands of the militaries of countless former Soviet republics and even more with insurgent forces, the Dragunov has been and remains a trusted tool of the Second World. Weighing in at a little under 10 pounds, with a length of 48.2 inches, this Soviet sniper fires the old Imperial Russian 7.62 by 54mm R cartridge out of 10-round box magazines. Effective at ranges of up to 800 meters, with rounds traveling at upwards of 800 meters per second, the SVD is a mid-20th century icon with an extensive service history. It's the late 1950s, and by now, the post-war optimism of the 1940s and the early years of the decade has been replaced with the paranoia of a world at the brink of nuclear conflict. The Cold War is at its height, and two distinct sides had formed. The West, collectivized into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, and the East, collectivized into the Warsaw Pact. Among other things, these two alliances of nations had begun standardizing their weaponry and ammunition to improve logistics and preparedness should the other side choose to break the international stalemate, and in the early years of the conflict, the East was being dramatically outranged by the larger caliber standard issue rifles of the West. Since 1949, the Soviet Union and its allies had been fielding the AK-47 as their standard infantry rifle, one of the first assault rifles to be adopted as standard issue, and this had given them a massive advantage in terms of rate of fire, the Kalashnikov firing much faster and for longer than the rifles used by the West. However, there was a trade-off to this. As the AK used an intermediate cartridge, soldiers could carry more ammunition and it was effective at most distances, but this cartridge was drastically underpowered compared to the 7.62 by 51mm rounds used by NATO forces, and thus, at longer ranges, the West had the advantage. To combat this vulnerability on the battlefield, the Warsaw Pact created a competition for a new high-powered rifle in 1958, the reward being the winning design's designation as the new standard squad support weapon of the Warsaw Pact nations. The requirements were simple: create an accurate military precision rifle with construction based off of the existing weapons in service with the Soviet Union. This competition would begin in 1960 and would mainly be between three men: Sergei Simonov, Alexander Konstantinov, and Yevgeny Dragunov. Early on in 1960, Simonov's prototype, the SVS-128P60, was rejected due to it not meeting the same standards as Konstantinov and Dragunov's designs, and thus their respective weapons, the 2BW10 and SSV-58, would continue to be revised and improved. Interestingly, both designers were cooperating quite closely on their rifles, but trials were increasingly proving the merits of Konstantinov's design, it being better designed technologically, having a simpler operation, and being easier to produce. However, Dragunov continued working on his updated SSV-61 design, now with a flash hider and bayonet lug, with further testing showing that his rifle was the more accurate of the two, also being more durable and reliable. And to the Soviets, these qualities outshone the technological advantages of Konstantinov's design. The accuracy and reliability of Dragunov's weapon were due to it being a heavily modified version of the operation used by the famously reliable Kalashnikov rifles, replacing the long-stroke gas piston system and automatic fire with a short-stroke gas piston system and semi-auto fire only. By July of 1961, the Soviet leadership had chosen Dragunov's design as the winner of the competition, designated the SVD, translating to Dragunov Sniper Rifle, and entering service in 1963. Unlike the majority of the sniper rifles used by their rivals at the time, such as the British short magazine Lee Enfield rifle or American M1903A4 Springfield, the SVD was not a bolt-action rifle design, a distinct and deliberate choice made by the Soviets. While semi-autos are traditionally less accurate and harder to maintain than a bolt-action rifle, the Soviet doctrine prioritized volume of fire over accuracy, and the idea was to use a small number of marksmen equipped with SVDs to assist infantrymen equipped with Kalashnikovs by suppressing targets from greater ranges and with more precision, allowing for the infantrymen to get within the effective range of their AKs,
and for this role, a semi-automatic weapon would work much better. By 1966, accuracy issues involving the 7.62 by 54mm R cartridge led to a new variant of the round, known as the 7N1, improving the SVD's precision, and putting it on par with sniper rifles in service today, such as the M24 or M110 SAS. As the SVD's time in service progressed, several prototype and production variants were created, often in a similar vein to the variants of the Kalashnikov series rifles. The SVD-N is a night vision scope-equipped variant of the SVD, and is functionally identical to the original production model. The V70 was a prototype design, created in 1968, to test the viability of a fully automatic SVD variant, featuring a new bipod, thicker and shorter barrel, and higher capacity magazines, but although it never saw production, its bipod design would be used in subsequent SVD production models. In the mid-70s, another attempt at an automatic variant would be designed, that being the AF model, chambered in 5.45 by 39mm, and compatible with AK-74 magazines, but this too would never see production. The SVD-S, first produced in 1978, is the folding stock variant of the SVD, designed primarily for mechanized infantry, paratroopers, and marines, with a folding stock, pistol grip, heavier barrel, strengthened receiver, improved gas cylinder block, and shorter conical flash suppressor. Originally, the folding stock was sourced from pre-existing rifles such as the AKS-47, but ergonomic issues would lead to a unique folding stock being produced in 1995. There are also SVD-SN rifles, which have both the folding stock and night vision attachments. Produced in 1994, the OTS-03 SVU was a prototype project from the 1970s, resurrected in 1991, being a bullpup conversion for the SVD in order to create a more compact variant for airborne and urban operations. These retrofitted SVDs have an improved muzzle brake, rear aperture sight, originally with a shortened barrel and intended as a select fire design, but this was soon dropped and the barrel length retained from the original SVD. The final military variant of the SVD is the SVD-M, a modernized version of the SVD-S produced in 2018, with a thicker and longer barrel, synthetic furniture, and a Picatinny rail mount. The SVD is available to civilians as the Tiger, first produced in the 1970s and first purchasable in 1992, available with a full-length or shortened barrel, several stock options, and chamberings in the original 7.62 by 54mm R round, 308 Winchester, 30-06 Springfield, or 9.3 by 64mm Brennecke. Furthermore, as with most weapons, there are a number of foreign variants: the Swiss SWD-M, Iraqi Al-Qadisiyah, and Chinese Type 79 rifle, all being based on the Dragunov design. The Romanian PSL rifle, while bearing a striking resemblance to the SVD and often described as a foreign SVD variant, is actually its own design, using a scaled-up version of the AKM's operating mechanism rather than the Dragunov's short-stroke gas piston system. In service for over 60 years, the SVD has been used in combat in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Ukraine, and everywhere else Russia and its former Soviet allies have found themselves fighting since 1963, though for true sniping purposes it has been largely replaced. A powerful rifle, chambered in the second oldest in-use cartridge in the world, Dragunov's design has remained a critical component of the Eastern world's arsenal, but this rifle's time may be coming to an end due to Kalashnikov concern developing the Chukovin sniper rifle in an effort to replace it, with testing still ongoing. A Soviet classic with a long list of users and an even longer list of confirmed kills, the Dragunov is the definitive Cold War semi-automatic sniper rifle.